Okay. Well, welcome everybody. It's so nice to see you all. This afternoon's program is Building Resilience Through Art, How Engaging and Creativity Fosters Mental Health. And this is part of No Shame on You's newish monthly Feed Your Mind series that we do monthly. And we're excited to be here today. Founded in November of 2014, No Shame on You is dedicated to eliminating the stigma associated with mental health conditions so the people who need help will seek it. Family members and friends will know how to provide proper support and ultimately to save lives. We do this at No Shame on You through all kinds of different programming, virtual as you see today, some in-person, community outreach programs and events, educational presentations, workshops, online tools and resources daily. We have a great blog and podcast and so much more. We are really happy to say that since the pandemic started, we have offered over 300 free virtual programs and a few in person now. And through our 125,000 social media following, we share a vast array of resources and information. And I'll share our website in the chat in just a few moments. We want to do a quick thank you to our generous funders, including JUF, Jewish Women's Foundation, Crown Family Philanthropies, and many more for supporting our important work. And now, just for a little bit of housekeeping, please keep your sound on mute to avoid feedback. We will take questions at the end of the program, but if you have something during, you can send them to me privately at Wendy No Shame on You, or Wendy NSOU, it's labeled, and I'll be monitoring Q&A at the end. And now I'm super excited to introduce a really wonderful human being, Bari Fleisher. I've known her a long time, and I'm excited to work with her professionally today. Bari is the chair of the Graphic Arts and Design at Touro University's Blitzstein Institute of Hebrew Theological College and the director of the Rala Klepek Performing Arts Leadership Initiative Immersion Program, as well as the creative consultant for the Rala Klepek Foundation for Education and Performing Arts. You're very busy, Bari. I'm not done yet. Bari is a creative consultant for Rala Klepek Foundation for the performing arts. She has taught music and art curriculum at Ari Crown Hebrew Day School, and prior to that was the art coordinator at Keshet, as well as a painting instructor at the Highland Park Senior Center. In addition, she has performed in productions, written, directed, produced, and created sets for the Chicago Women's Charity Performers, Hannah Sack, Space Yaakov, JCC, Apache, Rogers Park, Day Camp, Yachad, Arot, all these incredible organizations, and creates custom inclusive curriculum for approaching learners within the classroom in different modalities. Bari received her BA from Northeastern in Fine Arts from Northeastern University and has her MFA in Fine Arts from the San Francisco Art Institute, and is currently a doctoral candidate in disability and equity in education. She currently is a showing artist in large-scale installations, sculpture, and painting, a graphic designer, actor, and creator of set designs for local theater and photographers. Welcome, Bari. You rock. Your resume rocks. I already read it a few times, but saying it out loud, I'm even more proud.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Is it my turn now?
It's your turn. I'm going to spotlight you so everyone can see you.
Oh, no. Okay. Now I'm huge on my screen. It's fine.
If you go to the view.
I changed it to gallery so I don't have to just stare at my face. Hi, everybody. I know most people are really hesitant to turn their cameras on Zoom, but I really encourage it because I think it's more personal, and I don't really like talking to a bunch of text boxes. And plus, I know some of you, and I'd love to see your lovely faces. So if you are comfortable, thanks, Naomi. Thanks, Deborah. If you're comfortable, I would love for you to turn your cameras on. Hi, Ariana. Hi, Elise. And for those of you who I don't know, hello to you as well. So I hope you don't mind. We're talking about mental health today, and I have memory retention issues, and so I'm going to cheat. I have like 5 bajillion pages of notes. I also have 3 computer screens, so please do not feel like I'm ignoring looking right at you. I will be looking all over the place trying to keep up with my brain. Well, anyways, Wendy did a lovely job introducing me, and listening to it just gave me anxiety, realizing how busy I actually am. But I'm going to talk a little bit about myself to begin with, and then we'll kind of dive right into things. Before we get started today, I want to make sure everybody is prepared and has a writing utensil and some paper. And if you don't, you can get that at any point from now until we start our art project. And don't feel really stressed about the art project. Everybody can do it. Okay. While I am not an art therapist, I've worked in the capacity of the therapeutic arts in different areas for the past 20 years as an educator, a curriculum writer, doing all kinds of stuff for disabilities. And I've worked with ages ranging from 2 to 98. I hope to expand that someday. I can actually say I've worked from infancy because I have a child. So from infancy to 98. And I've covered a spectrum of different learning modalities, incorporating arts and performing arts. As Wendy said, I have my MFA from the San Francisco Art Institute, and I'm currently a doctoral candidate for disability and equity in education. I know, say that 10 times fast, where I'm hopefully going to be executing my knowledge and what I speak about as an artist and apply it in an educational background to curriculum surrounding inclusive approaches in classrooms, incorporating the arts into different learning styles, modalities for disabilities, neurodivergent thinkers, and emotional regulation. Right now, I am the chair of graphic arts, and I work with the Rollick Leapak Foundation in many different capacities. It's truly a wonderful organization. And on top of all of this, I'm a mom to a wonderful, amazing 6-year-old little boy who I think that's more of a job than anything else. And that's going to lead me into what I'm going to be talking about today. So you are probably sitting there right now asking yourself why the previously mentioned information has anything to do with mental health. And most of my education and my artwork and instruction revolves around mental health while being inclusive. So when Wendy said I'm a large scale installation artist, a painter, I draw, graphic design, all of my artwork has to do with the human body and mental processing. So right now my website's down, and I apologize to everybody because I'm in the process of revamping the whole thing. But if you ever get a chance, it's barifleisherart.com. And you can take a look at some of my work. Titles are included, and they surround mental health issues and the emotional processing which we go through when we create art. So let me ask a question, and it doesn't have to be answered aloud. This is internal rhetorical questioning. What are the arts? It's a very broad question. Lots of people think about it daily. Lots of people don't think about it daily, but everybody will come up with a different answer to it. How do you think, specifically you, think the arts are related to mental health? Obviously, I'm going to be answering these questions for you in my own words, but I have my own subjectivity on the topic, just as you will have your own subjectivity on the topic. But my goal for you today is to see how diving into art can be therapeutic and healing, is good for emotional regulation of all ages, and can help individuals see a different side of their emotions in order to better relate and process them. And I know that seems like a really daunting task, but the first step is super simple. So, what exactly is art? Art is a form of communication. It's a language within itself. It creates an outlet for an artist to take one's feelings, their thoughts, their ideas, their senses, and beyond that, and create a visual language consisting of color, shape, line, and form. And sure, that's a really simplistic way to look at what art is. The artwork can be only for you as an artist or as a person. You don't have to label yourself as an artist if you don't want to. Or it can be something to share with the public depending on your specific intentionality. Art also has context where, if created and understood, can convey a message to people. Does it need a message? Absolutely not. Art can be a process without a final result to get feelings and thoughts out of your body and into the world when you lack words to describe what's going on. And I'm going to talk more specifically about that as we move forward. It can allow for a different outlet when it comes to sharing traumas, anxieties, sadness, grief, and many more emotions. Art can utilize color. So I talk to my students all the time about the importance of color psychology, which I will spare you the lesson on today. We will just talk about the basics. But if you want to learn more, you can always join one of my classes. But it can utilize color to portray an emotion. It utilizes line and form to convey movement. Being an artist is allowing yourself to express some form of experience through the medium you're utilizing. So you can think of art as a tool to communicate. Now, you're probably sitting there. I mean, I know some of you, I don't know how many of you consider yourselves artists, but you might be saying, I'm not an artist, but, and it's a big but, big but. I know we don't really like to talk about big butts here, but this is a big but. Everyone in some capacity has expressed themselves in art in one aspect or another, whether you'd like to think so or not. It's true. Maybe not necessarily fine art or two-dimensional mediums or traditional art, which is what we're going to be doing today, but I'm sure you've probably sang a song at one moment in your life, wrote a poem, drew a stick figure, or played hangman. Guess what? You drew a piece of art. Acting, doing a dance in your kitchen while your child screams in the background to stop because they're embarrassed by you. This is a daily struggle for me. Art can be and is a lot more than what you think it is. When you think about daily conversations, you're improvising. How cool is that? Because you are not predicting what the other person is going to say. When you smile at somebody, you're utilizing a performing art on your face. You are smiling, which represents an emotion. It might not be a real emotion and you might just be masking something else, but acting, there you go. I'm not going to go into the history of the importance of art education or art therapy, but if you're interested in learning more, this is what I do. You can feel free to ask during the Q&A at the end. I can point you in the right directions. That's not what this is about. So to get into the mind frame of what we're going to be discussing, I'd like to start with a guided meditation. Has anybody heard or participated in guided meditation before? Okay. So guided meditation can be utilized to get into a mindset, can be used to emotionally regulate, remember some memory, some long lost memory or a happy memory, and has many other applications that are useful for mental health and surrounding it. And I want you to start by getting yourself comfortable wherever you are seated. So I do apologize. My voice, I don't think, is the best, most relaxing voice when it comes to guided meditation, nor will I be using my acting voice to lead you through this because I'm going to be real today. That's not who I am. But I'm going to do my best for you to try to relax. So what I'd like for you to do is take a deep breath. And let's do one more deep breath. If you are comfortable doing so, I would like for you to close your eyes. If you are not comfortable, I would like you to try to focus your gaze on nothing. Just listen to the sound of my voice. Start out by sensing your head. What is your head telling you at this moment? Take that thought and put it in a bubble and let it float away. What sensations are you sensing in your head? You don't need to put a label on it, but think of how it feels. Is it fuzzy? Is it warm? Is it floating? Is it stable and grounded? What color would you associate with this sensation? I want you to slowly move from your head down into your torso. If you find that your mind is wandering, feel free to place a hand on your belly and inhale deeply. Take any thoughts, put them into bubbles, and send them into the universe. What is your stomach feeling? Does it need something? Is it happy? Is it hungry? If you had to color your stomach in, what color would it be? Let's take another deep breath. Now slowly move from your stomach down to your legs. How are your legs? Maybe one feels a little bit different than the other. What do you sense within them? If you had to take paint and paint your legs, would they both be the same color? What color would they be? Let's move to our feet. Wiggle your toes around. What does that feel like? Imagine they are being submerged into colored water. What does the color look like? Let's take another deep breath. And we are going to sense our bodies as a whole. I want you to move any negative thoughts into bubbles and send them away to pop as they rise into the room that surrounds you. Sense anything within your body and see if you can move it around. As you are doing this, do you see a color that surrounds you? Feel your feet on the ground and feel your bottom in your seat. And take a deep breath. Now open your eyes. I think we're ready to begin at this point. And if you need a moment, please take it, but I'm going to start. So at this point, I'm going to get kind of personal here. And I feel like this guided meditation kind of brought us to a level of comfort when I can get personal with you. So we are going to go back to about 7.5 years ago. I had just finished my master's degree in fine arts when I found out I was pregnant. And by just, I mean like weeks later. During my 12th week, I remember sitting in my bed one day and I was very sick throughout my pregnancy. My body was failing me. But I was sitting there and something in my brain felt like it had changed. It had shifted. I didn't have words, nor did I know how to approach the sensation within myself. I told my doctors that week I felt, quote unquote, off. I didn't have any better word for it. I just felt off. Something didn't feel right. I had been tested for depression during each of my visits to my OB because that's their procedure. And I always tested negative, but my mind was always fuzzy, constantly moving. Words, images were mangled together in a giant mess. Song lyrics would play on repeat over and over and keep me up in the middle of the night, along with what ifs. All health issues aside, I felt like I was losing my mind. I would tell myself, Bari, if you think you're losing your mind, you're probably not, because people who lose their minds usually don't realize it. I still felt insane. And appointment after appointment for months on end, my doctors told me it was pregnancy hormones. It was a lack of sleep. It was normal jitters to prepare myself for becoming a parent. I was adamant, so adamant and so vocal that that was not what was going on, but I was dismissed. Now I'm in month 6 and I was at my OB's every 2 days due to health problems. And I remember looking one of my doctors in the eye and saying, I need this baby out of me now, and I don't want it in there anymore. And I felt so incredibly selfish and guilty and awful and completely not myself as these words came out of my mouth. And I'm sitting there after I said it, and the doctor's just staring at me on my internal monologue. What, am I having an identity crisis? Am I truly going insane? Is it my hormones? No. But guess what? They sent me home. When I went in to be induced, and it was not a planned induction, at a little under 8 months, I sat in the hospital bed before they initiated the induction. And I was there for about a day before they did it. And I had a million thoughts in my mind. I was crying the entire time I was in there. Obviously, I was panicked. It was normal to be panicked in a situation like this, but it felt beyond normal. And this nurse came in, and I will never, never forget this nurse. Her name was Mary, and she had these beautiful long gray braids, which were very tightly done. And she was kind, and she had soft hands and such a kind smile. And she asked me, how are you feeling? In all of the months that I had been struggling with whatever was going on, my doctors never asked me that. It felt like something that should be a normal conversation, but it wasn't. And when she said this, I was hysterical, as I was at every appointment. But I looked at her the same way I looked at my doctor before, and I said, Mary, something is off. Something is off, and I don't know what else to tell you. She asked me to try to elaborate, and I told her I didn't know how. But I mentioned all of the things that were on repeat in my head, all of the what ifs, all of these thoughts. The thing that I said to the doctors, which made me feel so guilty, which I was literally revisiting every moment of my day. And she left. And a few hours later, a social worker came into my hospital room saying my case was flagged and that I needed a mental health intervention. 8 months after it all started. I finally realized it had a label and I had a mental health problem. And as an artist who processes emotions through my artwork, it had never occurred to me that I had a problem. So I had my son through an emergency C-section and had a lot of health issues post-op, but that didn't stop the social worker that was assigned to my case from coming in to talk to me every day. And she even followed me to another hospital within the hospital system after I got transferred. And after I got released, I met with her a few times until she set me up with a therapist of my own, one of whom I still work with, I deeply care for. She's amazing. And all it took to get there was one question. How are you feeling? So where does art come into all this? I'm not quite there yet, so I hope you will bear with me on my journey because it's important and we will get to it. So I've been working with my therapist at that time for about a year, and I have said I still work with her. It's been many years now. But during that year, I had been diagnosed with postpartum anxiety. And who knew postpartum anxiety was a thing? Because I sure didn't. The stigma surrounding mental health is awful. And people don't talk about it. This is why I'm such an advocate for trying to be open about these things. Because if I knew about this, I would have been able to say in words, I think I have anxiety. Hospital systems only check for depression and not anxiety. And so no wonder I never got flagged before. I eventually joined this postpartum group for new parents with mental health disorders, and things in my head still weren't getting any better. Sorry, I got distracted by the questions section, the chat. But things in my head weren't getting any better through this group. And they weren't getting any better when I talked to my therapist. I still lacked the proper words to truly express the thoughts and sensations that were happening within myself. My therapist eventually told me I needed additional help, and she did research with me, and we found an organization to go into and try to figure out what was actually wrong. And when this organization couldn't, they passed my case to a specialty hospital for mental health disorders, where I was eventually diagnosed with PTSD, major depressive disorder, and anxiety disorder, because it was far past the postpartum. And the things that were happening in my head during my pregnancy, which I couldn't explain, were symptoms of PTSD. And sure, we can throw my pregnancy trauma in there now, but it was from childhood trauma, which I never even remembered. And I'm not going to get into details, but during my time with specialized therapists, my psychotherapists and doctors, I worked on many different modalities to approach my issues, because I can't take any medication. I have a liver processing disorder. So I participated in a ton of therapy. My therapist, always asked me why I didn't do art, and I could never explain it. And at this point, I hadn't touched a paintbrush in over a year. And every time I thought about art, I wanted to scream. But my therapist encouraged me to attend an art therapy class at this organization. And it was led by an art therapist, and I was so skeptical. How could I benefit doing art led by somebody else when I already know how to make art? I already have my master's. I don't need to go to some therapy group on how to create art. How can I learn skills when I already incorporate emotional regulation systems into my teaching? I hated this art therapist, surprisingly. And I don't hate much, and I don't use the word hate, but I labeled it as hate. Why? Because they made me create my feelings in a tangible way to be seen and not just felt. So let me tell you, this was the most important step in my therapeutic journey. I was led through art, not necessarily in a therapeutic approach like you would think, as I have a different background to most of the individuals that participate. But my therapist worked with me to create an entirely new approach so I could participate and want to participate. And I slowly immersed myself, and I mean very slowly, starting with doodling, then moving into paper craft, and slowly starting to get back into painting with guided lessons. Why are you choosing the color, Bari? What does the line form say about what you're feeling? Bari, paint your mental illness as a monster. Until finally I realized how important the process was. It wasn't the final result, but the process through it. Through art, I was able to approach things that I had no words to express to my therapist. I was able to dig down within myself to visually depict how I was feeling. And I would bring my artwork to my sessions so that my therapist could visually see what was happening, how I was feeling, what was going through my body and my mind, and kind of wrap their brain around it that way. It gave them a different way to question things when I lacked the words to speak. During my time at the organization, I found myself creating art when I was overwhelmed and working through emotions and thoughts and negativity. And did it feel good? No, absolutely not. And it might not for you either, but the important thing was that I was doing the hard work. Therapy isn't here to make you feel good. It's not here to cure you. It's here for you to think about things, to approach things that you avoid, work through grief, trauma, fear, more. Art is also meant to do that. So fast forward, and I don't need to get into the in-between, but many other things have happened in the past few years. I'm still in therapy and I still process through art. A few years back, I rekindled my love of watercolor and made the strongest connection therapeutically that I've never done. And I realized why my medium of choice, watercolor, has been the constant for the past 15 years. So we're not going to do another guided meditation, but let's visualize for a moment. I want you to think about watercolor paint, whether you've used it or not. If you haven't, think about water. What happens when you drop water onto a piece of paper? It splatters. What happens if you try to be precise and add water to a form into a perfect circle? You're probably not going to be able to do it. Water is unpredictable. Watercolor is unpredictable. So, why is this important? Because watercolor requires you to relinquish control. It's a medium of layers and mistakes and imperfection. And I struggle with perfectionism. I don't know who else does, but I'm sure a lot of us do. So why would a perfectionist like watercolor? Because it makes me take a step back to realize there's still beauty through imperfection and hard work if you just let it go. This is my mantra, and I'm going to be honest, it's actually not my mantra, and I totally just lied to you, but for the speech, it's going to be my mantra, because my mantra is normally anything's possible. But for today, it's going to be relinquish control. And why is it important to relinquish control when it comes to a mental health journey? Because your mental health can't be planned. It's unpredictable. Your mental health won't wait. It won't listen, and it will get in the way, and you must remember to relinquish control. Now, it's important to realize that doesn't mean give into it. It doesn't mean avoid it. It means to approach it with caution, to reflect, and to accept. And ultimately, I'm going to speak as the largest hypocrite on the planet right now. Acceptance is the key to success when relinquishing control and confronting mental health issues. I am not there yet. I'm very honest with myself about this fact. I'll probably never get there, but it's a goal I'm working towards. And I do this in life. I do this in therapy, but most importantly, I do this in my art. I tell my students all the time to let go, let the artwork and their hands do the talking. And I always get similar responses. I'm not a good artist. I don't know anything about color theory. I have no idea how to draw, paint, sing, dance, write. Guess what? It doesn't matter. If you can draw a line, you can relinquish control through art. And this brings us to our art project for the day. So, does everyone have their drawing utensil and paper? That's all you need. And if you want to take this project to the next level and make it super awesome funkiness, I will guide you towards those next steps, but we're going to begin with the basic here. And what I'm going to do at this point, and I talked to Wendy before, I'm going to zoom in from my phone so you can watch as I work through the process and follow along. And you're going to have to not laugh at my horrible setup because we're in my studio and it's a mess. Let me see here. I'm going to start my video. I'm going to turn this around. Great. And I'm on here with Wendy, so that's wonderful. And I'm setting my phone on a water jug. Speaking of relinquishing control, water, get it? Pun intended. All right. So what we're going to do is a project I start all of my art classes off with each semester. If my students have been through 10 of my courses, they've done it 10 times and it doesn't matter because we always start the same way and you can always learn from it. And what we are going to be doing is a blind contour drawing. So let's break it down a bit before we get started. A blind contour drawing sounds complicated and strange, but I'm going to begin with breaking down the word contour. And no, I'm not talking about how to contour your face so you look a billion years younger. I'm talking about actual line form. So contour is referring to line. A line is a form, and I'm sure everyone has made one form of a line at some point in their lives with a writing apparatus. And if you haven't, I'm not going to believe you unless if there's a specific story as to why. I'd like to listen to the story at some point, so please let me know if you've never made a line before. So the contour in this drawing is a continuous line, and a line doesn't need to be straight. A line can be curvy, it can be wavy, it can be jagged, it can be polka dots, but a continuous line today. And that's the important part. So when you place your writing utensil on your paper, it's not going to lift up at all until you are done. I'm actually going to try to place a mug on top. We're going to play Jenga for a second. I'm going to place this mug so my camera is higher so you have more of my paper. Please don't laugh at me to view. Okay, there we go. So this is strictly, I'm going to demo what a contour drawing is. It's strictly for a demo, so please don't do this part. I'm showing you how to not lift your writing apparatus in the process. So if I were to take, for example, I'll show you all my glue stick. Can everybody see my Elmer's glue stick?
Okay. Barry, is there a way to show a little more of your paper, or do you think you will be able to see it?
You're going to be able to see it. I'm just drawing right here.
Got it.
Yeah. So it's like super cool. 2 different cameras. Look at that. Here's my glue stick. So I'm going to put it actually next to my drawing. And a contour drawing, a continuous line, I'm looking at the object. And it doesn't need to be perfect. So I'm going to start with drawing the cap, and it's a continuous line, and my cap has a bunch of lines in it. All right, I'm going to make my cap a little more square. I'm going to come down. I'm not lifting my marker at all. Come down to the bottom where the clicker is, or the expander. There's my line there. I've got a label on it. There's a cow on that label. I can try to draw the cow should I so choose. The Elmer's logo. I'm not going to do any letters because that defeats the purpose of a line. But then there's the black box within. All right. There's my contour drawing of my glue stick. Now you're probably laughing, going, that looks nothing like a glue stick. It doesn't matter. This is my contour drawing. So does everybody understand you don't lift your pen once it hits the page? All right, so that is a contour line drawing. Now let's talk about the blind portion of this project. What does blind mean? It is lacking vision. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. My phone has just started ringing in the middle of this. Blind means lacking vision. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick an object in our close vicinity. So you can take a look around. It doesn't have to be a super entailed object. You could draw your face if you're looking at your screen. You could do a portrait. You could do somebody else's face if you are so inclined. This is your artwork and you will do what you want with it. But what you're going to do is you're going to use the concept of a continuous line, but we're going to add in the blind part. You are not allowed to look at your paper during this process at all. And we're going to work on the honor system, obviously, because I'm not there. But if I was there and you looked at your paper, I would call you out on it and I'd make you start over again. So I want you to try your hardest. Honor system. Not to look at your paper. Why? Because by not looking at your paper, we can't judge or label what we're doing. It's only through feeling. By not looking, we go with movement and sensation, and we relinquish control. See, we're back to my motto of the day. Of course, once you finish this blind contour drawing and you lift up your writing apparatus and you look at your paper, you're probably going to laugh. I mean, I can pretty much guarantee you'll either laugh or maybe you might start crying, which hopefully you don't. Again, I'm not an art therapist. We can work through those emotions, but hopefully it's a laugh. And when you do, I want it to be a non-judgmental laugh. And I know that's probably a harder task than you think, but do your best and look at it and just say the word of the object that you drew. So, glue stick. You don't need to label it as this is a horrible drawing. This doesn't look like what it's supposed to look like. It doesn't need to. So you're going to say the word of your object and laugh with humor at the fact that sometimes when you relinquish control, it's messy and it's frustrating and it's hard. And so is therapy, but it's something you can accomplish. All right, are we ready to do the project? You can watch my process, but you should be working on your own. Wendy, I'm going to draw you. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to let you guys watch my process. So at this point, you've seen how to do a contour drawing. I'm going to leave from my phone. And anybody have any questions before we start on the project? All right. So what you're going to do is you're going to sense with your paper or with your hands where the borders of your paper are. I always like to feel the top and the bottom. I'm using Sharpie. I'm a go-getter, so hopefully it doesn't get on my desk. But we're going to take, I'm going to set a timer for 1:20. And you're sitting there going, 1:20, that's so short to make a project. Did you see how quickly I drew that glue stick? This is not meant to be an involved process. Emotions are fleeting, just as a blind contour is. So what we are going to do is I'm going to set my alarm. Do we want 1:20 or a minute? Should I really challenge you? We're going to do 1:20. I'm going to give you 1:20. And we are going to take that 1:20 and begin our blind contour drawing. So again, please try not to look at your paper. And you may begin.
It's hard not to look, Bari. It's hard.
Don't look, don't do it.
I know. I'm not going to do it. Oh,
Don't
I
give
do
in.
that glance. Stop, Wendy.
And you might find yourself getting a little anxiety ridden because I sure am right now, but that's totally normal. It's part of the process. And hopefully the end result will make you feel better. All right, time's up. You may stop. Oh, great. I'm going to share mine. Now, type A, perfectionist, horrible anxiety. Wendy. So Wendy, here you are.
It's beautiful.
My completely relinquished control blind contour drawing. And I'm going to quickly talk about the next steps because I know we have to get to Q&A. But if you want to make this super awesome and frame this and hang it in your house as your first experience in relinquishing control through blind contour drawing, and you're like, I don't want just a line drawing, I want it to be super awesome, you can take any medium, oil pastels, markers, crayons, colored pencils, and I challenge you, each individual section of your blind contour drawing, color in a different color. You can use the same color more than once, but don't let it touch. And you're going to have, and do the background too, a beautifully colored, amazing piece of work that can compete with any Picasso anywhere in the world. So art is an extremely important form of processing. It provides us a language, a different approach, a different modality to confronting emotions, sensations, whatever is happening inside of us. I also challenge you at some point, if you do suffer from mental health disorders, illness, anything, even just stress from work, try to draw that monster, draw your stress out, draw whatever you are dealing with out. It can have eyes, it could be just a blob, it could be a Wendy picture, blind contour drawing. It is your own interpretation and processing. And take a look at it. So art is extremely important when processing thoughts on subjects, when trying to deliver messages to an audience, but it's also important for regulating yourself to process and to relinquish control. Remember, anything's possible if you relinquish control. See what I did there? Combined all of my mantras together. I want to thank everybody for joining me and allowing me to share my story, my art, my teaching here today. And Wendy, thank you so much for letting me be a part of this. I had such a wonderful time. If you are so inclined, you can take pictures of your work. You can send them. I'm going to put my email in the chat, and I would love to see what you've done. Is that my email? I think that's my email. That's my email. And at this point, Wendy, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Bari. I'm going to give folks a few minutes. If they have a question, you can type it in the chat to me. Or we're a small enough group. If you wanted to unmute and ask a question, you can. That was really cool. I'm going to share my drawing because you can't see it. Shoot, because my background is blurry. Hang on. Can you wait? I'll send you a picture, Bari.
Did you use your blue colored pencil?
Yes.
That could be why it might not show up.
It is better than I
expected. Let's see
Devorah's.
Devorah's has a crossword on the back. I like that.
It was really cool.
In the back, I didn't realize. Wait, hold on.
Is it a flower?
It is a plant in my office.
There you go. Look at that.
With the pot. And I love how the pot designs ended up off the pot. So I like it.
I really like it. And I guess I'm just surprised that I like it as much as I do. So that was a pretty cool experience. And thank you. Please take a moment. I want to thank everyone for coming. If you have 2 minutes to fill out this very short survey, it helps make sure we're on the mark. Also, you can share other topics that you're interested in and helps us report back to our amazing funders and donors, which we are so grateful for. For more information about No Shame on You, you can go to our website, noshameonyou.org. I'm putting it in the website. Our next monthly Feed Your Mind series is in December, and it is all about launching a upcoming rising freshman with mental health challenges in college. Thank you, Bari. Oh, it's a U, but we're a U without the Y.
Just kidding. I'll do it one more time.
Thank you, because I'm missing an E in mine.
Yeah, there we go. Last one.
Go.
Relinquish control.
But anyway, we'll hang around for a few moments if anyone wants to schmooze or chat. But this concludes the official part of our program. And Bari, thank you for your vulnerability and your insight. And I found it really, really to be moving and powerful. So thank you so much.
Thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Have a great day, everyone. We'll hang around for a few minutes if anyone has a question or wants to say hello.
Bye, Devorah.